DanielBurrellJr.com.
You got to go out. I'll kick you out. Come back in, okay?
Okay, go ahead. Kick
All
me
right.
out.
I'm gonna kick you out. Kick from studio. What up, round up, homies? Sharing this. Am I sharing that? Why is this thing not? It is good to see you guys. I haven't been on here in what? I haven't been live. Yo, I haven't been live in like I don't even know. This had to have been. I don't know, man. I have missed you. Haven't seen you in a while. But tonight, what we're going to be doing is with my boy Dan Borrero. This man's been investing in real estate since 1989. Dan Borrero, what up, homie?
How are you, my brother?
Man, I gotta tell you, I'm on top of the world, dog. I'm on top of the world.
And look at it this way, man. If we're on this side of the dirt, we doing good.
You're right. If you want, you're right. That's a good point right there, Dan. Let me do that. I like this one. I like to see that. Beautiful. You're right, Dan. If we don't, all this stuff that we get caught up with, making money, doing things, create all that stuff. It's just,
None of it means anything.
isn't that
Can't
something?
take it with you, man.
Can't take it with you, Dan. I don't like thinking that, but it's the truth. I thought you said you can be the only guy with a U-Haul in the back.
Actually, what I told you was I intend to take my money. I made sure I told my wife, my kids, everyone. Make sure when your mother buries me, she puts a check inside my jacket. Blank check. Make sure she signs it and then she puts a blank check in there. So at least I feel like I'm taking it with me, you know? That's all I ask. Just let me feel like I'm taking it with
You
me.
sick in the head, man.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, what up, E? E in the building. What up, E?
Mr. Bellamy, how are you?
It was good. DC, what's going on, y'all? Tonight, I did a video this past weekend about interest rates, but I want to bring on somebody that's been in the business, not twice, a lot longer than me to get his perspective on interest rates. And before I came on, I was showing the picture of this guy. Dan was giving me a hard time. If there's any white dude you want to listen to, if any, you got to listen to this guy right here. I mean, he holds the key to the real estate business. We're going to dissect a little bit of his speech because Dan hasn't seen the speech, but I'm going to play
He
some
holds the key
clips.
to many businesses.
Yeah, he does, Dan. He does, and I don't think it's fair, but they don't care what I think. So, but Dan, I want to show you a graph here, man. Get your opinion. As tonight, we're talking about what does rising interest rates mean for investors. Let me show you some slides, Dan. I want to get your opinion. Here's the first one here. So, I did the presentation. This one didn't make it to my thing this weekend, but this is interest rates, Dan, from 19 to today, right? As you can see, 2019 they started to drop, right? Hit the bottom to 2021. Can you see that?
Yep.
And then they started
21,
climbing back
two
up.
and a half percent.
All right, so let's just now remember that there. I'm gonna bring in another picture. Uh this is that ain't it. I'm gonna go here. Boom. Okay. Here's average sales price of houses for the US. Average sales price. You can see 220 right when those interest rates were going crazy. The same thing was happening to prices of houses as they were going up right here, right? So I just want, what does your brain tell you? What is your brain telling you, Dan, when you're seeing these interest rates go up? And first of all, what's your interpretation? Thanks for being here tonight. What's your interpretation of those two images, Dan?
The reality is this, man. I've been a real estate investor since 1989. I've been self-employed since 1985.
Hmm.
And whenever prices run amok on not only real estate, on just in general, all goods,
Hmm.
not only just real property, but just goods in general, even like, dairy goods, farm items are a good indicator to what's to come.
Mm.
So prices have to get readjusted. And to do that, one of the tools that the government has is, besides buying bonds or selling bonds, is increasing or decreasing the rate that they lend money to the banks. And in turn, those banks lend money to us, right? So, you know, this is something that needed to happen because it was running amok. The reality is that, you know, interest rates should have been going up at least in the
Earlier this
last
year.
2 years of the Obama administration.
Yeah.
If not, maybe not a point, but at least a quarter of a point. And then Trump, he should have been raising interest rates, but of course that maniac wasn't going to do anything about. He was trying to keep interest rates low because he needed the economy to at least appear to keep growing before the elections, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, it's not just the Republicans or it's both parties. They both play a significant factor on the inflation rate and the interest rates to their benefit, to make them feel to whatever's going to make the other side look bad. All right, I don't believe
Stupidest
that
thing I've
either
heard.
party has our best interests at hand.
Nope.
They don't care about us. um so this was something that was going to happen, and didn't really matter who, if Trump had won the election or if Biden was there. It's irrelevant because this was a buildup coming for the last maybe 6 years, 4 to 6 years. So this is why we're here today, because our political leaders didn't make the hard choices.
You should have made some harder choices during COVID, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so too, man.
so having said that, this is just the process of capitalism. And for those of us that are prepared for it, and for those of us that took the time out to read, for those of us that took out the time to understand the history of the market, we're sitting here, chopping off, we're licking our fingertips. We just can't wait to get into that and start picking up, opportunities, because there's going to be a lot of people that get hurt. Now, I'm not wishing that people get hurt, but the
Hmm.
reality is that's capitalism. Um,
So then, I want to lead, that leads me to my next question. I want to talk about why this doesn't. If someone were to look at this will make, in my opinion, anybody nervous. Just to look at something. I mean, this is almost vertical. This,
I think it's great. First of all, 2.5% interest rates is unrealistic. Second of all, 2.5, 3%, 3.5, 4%. The reality is this: people aren't selling those homes. They're not going to sell those homes because they know it's not in this lifetime they'll see 2.5, 3, 4% interest ever again.
now, when you
They're
say
not
they
going
won't,
to pay down on the loan because it's insanity to pay it down sooner.
let's stay here for a minute, Dan, because I'm here to give perspective, gain perspective, share stuff, and y'all get some questions in. When you say they're not going to sell, what do you mean by that? Because my perspective is we buy real estate on social issues, not on market conditions: death, divorce, sickness, loss of job, job transfer. So, what do you mean when you say they're not going to sell?
When I talk to people who have interest rates at 2.5%, matter of fact, my cousin, for instance, he just retired. Um, Retired sooner that because of circumstances, retired before he was planning to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not in the rental business, but he's renting the house. He won't.
Because,
He says, "Why would I sell it? When I'm only paying 2.5% interest."
gotcha. So, he turned it into a rental.
Turned it into a rental, which is going to take inventory off the market, right? It's a single family house. He would have normally sold that to another end user. So now there's less inventory that's on the market. Now, the crazy part is that I personally think in 5 years, the banks are going to be kicking themselves in the ass, because the first 5 to 7 years on a 30-year note is when all the interest is collected. After that, it's more principal. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's going to cost the bank money to maintain that that loan,
Nope. Yeah.
to service that loan, because and for a 2.5% interest. I personally think banks are going to start giving people incentives for them to pay off their mortgages. I mean,
Yeah, that's
even
a good
even
point.
to the point where they'll say, and just a realist on just for simplistic numbers, if I owe 100,000, the bank may say, listen, we're gonna if you pay us in full, we'll take 90,000. You could keep 10.
Wow, that's deep.
Now
That's
I'm
deep.
gonna say screw that. I'll pay the whole 100. I'm only paying 2.5%. Leave it alone, right?
Well, Dan, I just want to ask you because we buy houses from people that have to sell. So my perspective, I want to know what you also. I'm like, yes, they may not want to sell, but I've already bought two from people that had to sell, and their interest rate there was 3%. Right? I'm already living this life. Right? This is the life I live. So I know people are going to get sick. People are going to die. They're going to have job transfers. All those key indicators of social issues. They have
But
to sell these
Chris,
properties.
you are I you know I'm going to say this. You are an exceptional person that has uh, developed a process in a very small niche. Like you've developed a niche for yourself that is not very common, especially like for instance in the Northeast, right?
Mhm.
Um, you are the exception to that rule to much of an extent because there's not many people that know what you know in reference to sub two,
I got you.
right? So you are in a much, much better position as a result of taking out the not the time to inform yourself and create, this mindset filled with information that most people don't have.
Yeah, well, I don't want to think that I'm no better than anybody watching. I'm just a normal guy.
No, you're not a normal guy. You're not a normal guy because the information that you have accumulated and then you haven't taken that information and execute it to the extent that you have is not on normal population on this earth.
I got you. That could be. Well,
That's what makes the difference between the extreme successful, the average successful, and the wannabe successful, right? The people that actually, people like yourself that have taken out the time to educate yourself, perfect your craft, and execute on it.
well, I still want to give the everyday guys my mission. Obviously, to help my people to learn this stuff, just because it is that niche thing. But then you've been in the game long. I mean, I'm not a unicorn. I mean, I learned this from rich people that were already doing it before me. They've been doing it. It's just people that look like me, I promise you, haven't been doing it. That's
Right.
that's the
Exactly.
main problem.
That's the main problem.
People that look like me, so I want to change. I am changing that, but I guess I want to talk to you about people that have to sell. Dan, people are still going to foreclosure. I could
Yeah,
pull up my
listen,
screen.
there are going to be people that find themselves in unprecarious in positions that have to sell. But the reality is that I'm talking about not those people. I'm talking about the people that would be selling their houses in 5 years because they may have outgrown that
You're
house.
talking about the masses, then.
Right. I'm talking about people that, may want to move to a different neighborhood because their income has gone up, right? Um,
They're gonna keep that house.
they're gonna keep that house. They're now gonna become real estate investors, even
That
though
is so
they have no
crazy.
intent of becoming a real estate
I never
investor.
even thought of. I had never thought. You know what, Mom? It's so weird how you can magnetize your mind. I never even thought about that. I never. Only ones I see are the ones that have to sell. I
Right.
never thought. Wow, that is deep, Dan. You just opened up my. I never even thought about that.
No, these low interest rates that occurred up until last year. As a result of that, there's a lot of inventory off the market,
Off the
which is
market,
right
which
because
is
they're not
good.
going to sell. They're not going to sell if they don't have to sell.
Well, that's still good though. I mean, either way, if they have to sell, it's creative financing. If they keep it, it's one less house on the market, which still makes inventory low. Correct?
It does, but it can have an adverse possession for not as much for you, but for somebody like myself, where I like to buy when there's a lot of inventory in the market because the prices, excuse me, that's when the prices come down.
Mm.
So when the interest rates go up, single family homes are going to come down as the interest rates go
They're
up.
coming down. Ain't no. I mean, they're already.
That's just the reality. That's the relationship between prices of homes and interest. Interest rates go down, prices of homes go up, vice
Yep.
versa, right?
Period.
However, in the times of inflation, multifamily homes even though the interest rates go up, usually go up in value because since there's less people that could afford to go buy a single family home now that would be migrating from rental to home ownership,
Mm.
they're staying in the apartments. So
Mm.
now you have less inventory because people who have those low interest rates ain't moving. They rather extend their homes, go get another loan, home equity line, extend the property, make it bigger. They're not leaving because they don't want to. They don't want to go into a mortgage for 7% when they have a mortgage currently at 2.5% and 3%, right? So you
Mm.
have that inventory off the market. You have homes that are now no longer affordable because the interest rates have gone up. That's why the rents go up
I never even thought about that.
and
Wow.
multifamily prices go up.
That's why I keep you listen, y'all. I keep people that are smarter than me, that been around longer than me, got more money than me. I keep them on speed dial. And you guys get to get questions answered by this guy tonight. So get your questions in, man, because I promise y'all not gonna be able to call him like I can call him. You know,
How
that's
many
just
people do we have on here right now, Chris? Do you
it
know?
looks like it's about 30, 38.
Well, hello, all 38 of you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Dan, y'all give Dan a follow too. What's your YouTube channel, Dan? Is it USA?
USA Land Ventures, if you could type it into the chat.
I just clicked the button. I didn't even announce this tonight. I feel like I wanted to I think this interest rate conversation is being skewed by the media. And I wanted to make sure that my people know exactly how to approach this thing. I need y'all to know exactly how to approach it. Because if you listen to the mainstream media, I promise you, they're not going to show you how to get wealthy. This doesn't work like that.
No,
Oh,
listen, the reality is I love the media in the sense that they create opportunities for people like you and I. I remember in 2008, 2009, media was like, if you listen to the media, we were in a catastrophe. Everywhere you went, there was a soup line. There was no light at the end of the hall. Every night, the first thing that would come on the news, it didn't matter if I was in Florida, Chicago, New York. It was like, DC King, what's going on, brother? Thank you. So it didn't matter. They would talk about this economic catastrophe.
yeah.
So what happened was people in the United States didn't see the opportunities. They didn't
No.
see the individual trees. They only saw the forest. And then I came in and started buying those individual trees. And who was I selling those individual trees to? I was selling them to foreigners. Uh,
Mm.
the foreigners had so much more confidence in our economy and our government than our own citizens did. And they didn't start to wake up until about 2014.
Mm.
By that time, foreigners had bought up a large chunk of the inventory, which they then sold to our own citizens at a ridiculous margin of profits, right? Because we were too scared. So the media, you have to remember, the media is in business to sell fear.
And to airtime, they just want your eyeballs.
They
That's
want
all
to
it is.
sell fear. That's what gets your eyeballs. So, I don't begrudge them because they created opportunities for us.
So Dan, we got some questions here. Tell me about the seller, someone that has to sell their property, Dan, or just a regular person's going to list their property. What's their mindset? Are they as they go into rising interest rates? Tell me a little bit about what you. So for me, when I'm talking to sellers, I'm like the first thing on my mouth is the day I'm like, well, interest rates up, blah blah blah. Tell me about your experience with the mindset of sellers that are listing their house at this time.
Right now, the properties I've been able to pick up, and by the way, guys, I am being extremely selective
Oh yeah, why Dan?
because I don't know where the market's going. I really don't know where the market's been going. I've been having this fear for a little over a year.
In your
So
gut.
normally I would buy, let's say, after renovation costs, after I was all in with all my closing costs, renovation costs, let's say I want it to be no more at 75, 70% of the market value. So if the property was going to be worth 100,000 when I was done with it, I didn't want to be into the property for more than $70,000 between my closing costs, my acquisition, my renovations, my carrying costs, everything, right? Now that's changed. If I'm not at 60% of what I expect the market value to be when I'm done, with the renovations, I don't touch it because that
Mhm.
extra 10% is my cushion for,
Scary.
for whichever way the market goes. If the market goes up, I made more money. If the market comes down, I'm still within that margin of error, right? Um, so I'm not buying as much as I used to because sellers were not negotiable. They're becoming more negotiable now.
Oh, you daggone right. I've had several people just tell me this. I just need this off my. Anyway, so Dan, when I'm talking to people, I'm thinking about I'm laying out the picture of what the media. Dan Kennedy says, enter the conversation that's already happening in the person's mind. I'm like, I already know they're watching the news. I already know it because they're thinking about selling their house, right? When I'm talking to them, I'm like, interest rates, blah, 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 but boom. But I know for me, it's irrelevant. I could care less what the interest rate is, just personally for me. So, are you? Do you plan to craft more creative finance and stuff, or what is your plan over the next 6 months? And before we get to that, Dan, I'm seeing dudes taking haircuts, man. As I'm okay, let me give you this picture. In my area, people were buying houses. I know areas where I was buying houses for 30, 40, $50,000, right? They were just you didn't want to be there. Bad areas, man. Those same houses were going for they were selling for 100 to investors for 100, because they were retailing at 180. Now I'm seeing those same guys over the last few months try to sell those houses for that 180, and they're just been sitting, right? And I heard you talk about being selective. That really caught my ear. Because did you have to be selective over the last 2 years?
Yes.
You still had to be selective during the crazy high.
I thought, yeah, because the numbers didn't make sense.
Well, I'm talking about the locations. Well, let me rewind. Where you were buying, not you personally. I'm talking about.
It's irrelevant where you bought it didn't matter. It was affecting every whether it be an A class property, B class property, a D class property. It was affecting every property class across the board. The numbers weren't making sense. The numbers didn't make sense because money was too cheap.
Yeah.
Money was too cheap. Now, if you bought a property and at 3%, 4% interest, and you're cash flowing,
Leave it
don't
alone.
panic. So
Yeah.
what if the property goes down? So let me tell you, in 2010, 2012, I would have about 100 to 200 short sale contracts in my file.
Good God.
Now, of those, we would close on about 50, 55% of them. You know how difficult short sales could be negotiating with the banks. However, people were short selling their properties because they bought it. Let's say, and I'll give you an example: a condo, for instance, that I had purchased. I still own it. I bought that in 2010 for $38,000. Came with a garage in a great area in Orlando area. He sold it because he was scared because he paid 165 for it, and he was watching everybody do short sales around him. I bought that for 38,000 from him.
Good Lord.
Now, not from him, primarily from the bank.
Yeah.
I still own that property. That property is now worth about $365,000.
Mm, mm, mm.
And between the garage rental and the rent that I collect from the current renter that's there now, I'm averaging a net of about $900 a month
That's
from a
stupid.
$38,000 investment.
Your money had it all. You have all your money back in 4 years.
Right. And not only that, but the property's worth about 365 right now.
Is God also wants to know: is it good to purchase multiple single family properties now or multi-family units, Dan?
It all depends on what your area is, right? So if you're going to go to the Midwest or an area like where Chris Haskins is at, that area is primarily comprised of single family homes. Though
You
that's
won't
your
have to mention.
opportunity in that area, single family homes. If you're going to come to an area like I'm in Central Florida, I do a lot of Central Florida. I love buying condos because it's very low management. You pay those HOA fees, and I don't concern myself with the roof, the landscaping, the sprinkler system, the fire suppression system, the exterior painting, exterior lighting, and so on and on and so on. So it all depends what's the market that you're in. Either one of them will make you money.
Yeah, just got to buy the numbers right, man. And I think you need to stick with one. I don't know if you don't know either one, you might want to focus on one first instead of trying to be all things to all people. Foreclosure wave is coming. You're right, man.
Yeah,
You're right.
listen, one of the banks that I follow to give me an indication to where the market's going is Chase.
What do you
So
mean?
so Chase Bank was one of the very few banks that didn't take any of the top money from the government
Mm-hmm.
when the market crashed in 2008, and they didn't take any money because they didn't have to, because they were running conservative before that.
Mm-hmm.
So Chase Bank is a very conservative bank, and they've had the ability. They hire the right people, obviously. Their culture encourages safety first. At least that's my impression of it. I've never read it. It's just my impression of it. And they started laying off mortgage brokers a year ago. So,
What?
yeah. So if you
Did you
think
read
about,
that in the news or something?
yeah, think about this. The bank makes money by lending money, and they're laying off the very people that lend money.
Wow.
So they started contracting a year ago,
That's crazy, Dan.
isn't it?
That's sharp, man.
They also
You got some
started
secrets.
putting additional money aside every quarter for bad debt services, bad debt consumer services. And what are those? Uh,
Credit card stuff.
home equity lines, credit cards, car loans.
Hmm.
Uh, a lot of banks stopped a year ago doing home equity lines, and I'm not. I think Chase may have been one of them as well. I'm not sure on that one, but I know Santander's one of them. Um,
Your mom saw that
so
story.
home equity lines back in 2008, and I would do a short sale, and they owed, let's say, 300,000 on the first mortgage, and the second mortgage was another 100,000. At the closing table, second mortgage was sometimes getting nothing, or maybe $2,000 or $3,000 for that 100,000.
I remember that, man. Good old
Yeah.
days. I did
So
several of those.
the banks learned. They said, "Wait a minute. I think we're going to see a downturn. We're not going to give out any home equity lines because we don't want to get stuck holding the bag like we did in 2008."
MLK says, "How do you find those foreign investors, Dan? Did you just list it on the MLS or what?"
Primarily through social media, number one. Number two, like Facebook Marketplace now, I didn't have that back then, but back then I used to do a lot of penny saver ads. But I would go to different organization, real estate. So realtors, for instance, they'll have organizations geared towards the Hispanic market,
Mm.
or towards the Korean market, or towards some country in Europe, right? And it's usually that realtor is usually of that same ethnicity. So I would reach out to that realtor, and I start creating a relationship. Every business is subject to the relationships that you have,
Yep.
and you got to create those relationships.
Rosemary, my home interest is 3%. Is it advisable to refinance now?
Absolutely not.
No way. It's double. You can pay double, almost 2.5 times.
You're gonna pay 7% now.
Yeah. Oh, just hold on. I don't even know. Here's the thing, Rosemary. I look at real estate like from 0 to 100. You're at 3, right? So crunch, crunch, crunch. You're almost at 0, right? So
Yeah,
you can't get too much closer to
it
0.
makes no sense. So I wouldn't. I always encourage people to pay down their mortgage. At least make one extra payment per year. If you make one extra payment per year on a 30-year note, that drops it to 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
But at 3%, I'm going to tell you, don't make any extra payments, because you
It's,
could take that money, that extra payment, put it into the S&P 500 fund with a Vanguard fund, and in 25 years, let's say if you put $150 a month for 25 years, you will have approximately almost $1 million in 25 years.
that's in the market.
That's just putting it into an S&P 500 fund,
That's crazy.
where and you instruct them that all the dividends that they make
Go back.
goes buys and goes back into it to buy more funds.
Yeah. That's a good one. Well, I just wanted to talk to you, Dan, to see where your head was at. I'm excited for the opportunity. I just feel like sellers, people still got to sell. Everybody's just running around scared. People still have to sell. I mean, they still got to. They got people will have to move, right?
Yes, absolutely.
People got to move, and somebody. My mentor says, Chris, as long as people want to sell, there's always going to be somebody that wants to buy somewhere eventually. But the numbers and everything, I feel like we are going to be such of the few buyers because everybody's scared. I'm like, hey, I'm buying over here. Well, I'm buying. Is that? Tell me your thoughts on that, Dan.
Look, we are buyers because we took the time out to prepare. You know, on my mentorship classes for 2 years, I've been telling people, I says, listen, guys, you got to live below your means. Get your finances
That
in
is
order.
one of the secrets that no one wants to talk about.
Get your
No one wants to talk about that.
get your finances in order. You know, stop. Look, exotic cars. I forget what the numbers were 2 years ago. Couldn't find them. Now, same exotic cars down about 40%.
I saw Patrick sell his for 100. He got an offer for like $120,000 less.
Is that right?
The Ferrari he had.
Did he sell it?
No, he said I didn't even. I just kept it.
Yeah. You know, there's when money's cheap and the economy's running high is when you got to live below your means.
But I just think that
Because
isn't that a rule for becoming a millionaire though? You have to live on 30 to 40% of what you make.
uh, pretty much,
Well, for
because
me
that's
it
what.
was.
Yeah, that was me. Me, it
For
was
me
like
it was.
50%.
Well, okay, you live on, let's say, half of what you spend on. You live on half of what you make. For me, Dan, I wasn't able to like. I'm being transparent. I wasn't the guy that was able to go out there and just make $1 million. Like I just wasn't that good. I had to like com- cut all. I had to like live so low and then start paying off real estate to turn myself into a million. You know, I didn't have that skill as I wasn't that good, right?
Neither did, you know what? There's very few people that are number one. Um, but so there's two things I've realized, Chris. If you don't take the time out to educate yourself, you won't see the opportunity, number one.
You
And
will
if you
see.
don't simultaneously live below your means so that you could save the money to take advantage of the opportunity, it's those two things cannot go. They coincide and they cannot exist without each other.
Wow, man, that's so deep. You're dropping them tonight, Dan. Good Lord. Educating yourself because I think your mindset. Dan Timmer says, "Thank you." As a new investor, she wants to leave. Look at that. My God is awesome. She wants to leave corporate America. Now, I don't want her to be mad at having when people say they want to leave. Listen, you're probably making good money. So don't beat yourself up for having a good job, okay? Let's start there first. Would you say, Dan?
I I kind of get agitated when I hear the narrative like fire your boss.
Yeah, man.
I'm like, why?
It ain't pretty out here, y'all.
Why? If you have a boss and you're getting paid, you're selling 40 hours a week to your boss. That's what you're doing. You're
And you're getting
selling him
paid.
40 hours a week. And in return for that 40 hours, you're getting a medical benefits, you're getting a salary. But most importantly, what most people don't realize is that you're getting a W 2. And with that W 2, that allows you to go to the bank and
Mm-hmm.
get a mortgage. Now,
Good
when
point,
Chris
Dan.
and I go get a mortgage, they want to see the underwears we were wearing last week,
Profit and loss. I can't stand turning them joints in,
right?
man.
Because they don't trust us because we don't have a boss. They trust you more because you have a boss. Now, do they know if your boss is any good or if he's going to continue to run the company right so that you'll always have a job? They don't know that. But the mentality is that's their mentality. So you having a W-2 allows you easier access to bank money,
Finance.
to financing than it would Chris and I.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't agree with firing your boss. Now, when you get to the point where your real estate holdings are providing you so much more money than you're earning, and your job is holding you back from making more money, because if you took that same 40 hours and put it into your business, you would double that. then I would say yes. That's the time to fire your boss.
Good point.
But
Good
before
point.
that, no. Get that out of your mindset.
Good point. Good point. My God is awesome. Listen, y'all, we're gonna keep going, but a few more minutes. I know, Dan, we're both getting sleepy. My Black Friday block party starts this Friday. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you follow Dan too. I'm gonna have all type of goodies on here every day for y'all. I got Airbnb guys, Instagram trainer. I got my tax delinquent guy, multifamily, all type of stuff coming on y'all for Black Friday week. My block party. Make sure you subscribe, y'all. Dan, should she focus on increasing money or increasing property she owns? That's an easy one.
I would have to ask him more questions, but
What do you mean? You don't focus on making money, or you just
increasing
think of it?
property you own. Not sure what she means by that. You mean increasing the value of the property I
She
own?
says how increase profit, or should she increase the amount of doors? I don't care. Here's the thing. Let me answer that. I'm gonna let you go. I don't care. I do not care how many doors you own. That is irrelevant to me. I'm like, I'm sick of people saying I got this door. I'm like, tell me about the quality of the doors you have and the financing that's eating you up. That's what I want to know. Don't tell me about 20 doors you got and you're making $100 a month on each one because you're finance. I'm like, it's irrelevant to me.
So I gotta agree with Chris. So I was just speaking to someone that was bragging about that he had 22 doors. And in between his 22 doors, he was making about $12,000 a month.
What? That's
And I'm
sad.
thinking to myself, and I'm
That's
saying,
one door.
I didn't say this to him. No, no. I have a two building, a two apartment building that I'm making $9,000 a month profit
Yeah,
net,
but you in New York though. That ain't nothing.
right? But the point is, I agree with you, Chris. It's not about the amount of doors that you have; it's about the quality of doors that you have.
And the financing,
And when we
quality, and
say quality, we're not just talking about the monthly income.
oh
We're
no,
also talking about the quality of the tenant,
that's
uh,
true.
how well it's managed. Because you could have, you know, I could have 12 doors, and my those doors be managed better than someone who has 6 doors. It's not just about the money; it's about the quality of your life. You
That's
don't
true.
want to get the calls, even if you have a manager, a property manager. Then you got to eventually manage the property manager,
You better, or they'll
right?
screw you. I love it, Dan, because we have totally two different investing styles. Like I will rent out a dump ugly house, and I'm making $1,100 on a house that needs a complete renovation. I don't manage the tenant, so you're like a pretty rental guy. You have both of us make money, y'all. You
Right.
get to decide which one you want to do. Okay.
Listen, the real estate business is like being a doctor, right? You go to med school and you get you become a doctor, but then you specialize in a specific field. So Chris is specializing in his specific field. I specialize in my specific field.
Yeah.
But the best thing about when Chris and I sit down and talk is that we still have the same perspective about being conservative
Oh
on
man.
approaching what we invest in.
It's so funny how people think that we are risky. They think we take risks, right? And I'm like, it's so amazing how both of us look at this like I don't take any risk. I'm like I don't think I don't want
I mean,
to.
look, it is risky. It's funny. I had a friend of mine about 2 years ago, John. He says, "Listen, let's go to Atlantic City." He's a real big gamble. He goes, "Everything's comped. We show up," and I'm like, "Chris, I have no desire to go to Atlantic City." And he's like, rather John. His name's John. And he goes, "Yeah, but don't you want to go?" And I says, "Gamble." I says, "I gamble every day of my life. This is what I do for a living." The only difference is that the odds are in my favor, not their favor.
Y'all give Dan a thumbs up for that one. Chris Burge, he's a private one of our private lenders, 7 to 9%. With these markets, would we look at 12 to 15%, Dan?
Chris, first and foremost, I haven't spoken to you in a while. Chris Birch, man, I kind of miss our conversations. How are you,
Yeah,
brother?
he's a deep dude, man.
Yeah. I see the rates going up. Yeah. I
Yeah.
see them going up and then leveling off and then eventually coming back down. But yeah, I do see them going up. They
Yeah.
don't have a choice. They got to get control of this inflation rate, man.
Kathy's sitting on the sidelines. I'm not mad at you. Listen, if you don't have your deal and have the wisdom, knowledge, wherewithal, and the team, I am encouraging you. Just wait it. Just wait till the time is right. Timing is everything. Don't beat yourself up. We both
Listen,
sleepy. All right,
as
Dan.
far as timing the market, I'm still buying.
Yeah,
I'm
me
being
too.
more
Bye-bye.
selective. I don't care if I pay more in interest rates. The reality is this: if the interest makes sense at 10%, let's say, when the rates come down and I refinance at 7, if it make it if the and by that time my rents are up, right? Why wouldn't it make sense? So it doesn't really matter to me what the interest rates are. What
I love
matters
it.
to me is that the numbers make sense when I'm evaluating the property.
All right, y'all. So I want to come on here tonight and just share with y'all. We both old men. We just old geezers. I'm sleepy too. I'm like
Yo, 5:30 comes around real quick, bro. In the morning,
it does.
5:30 in the morning is when I'm up, man.
So I don't want y'all tonight. My purpose was tonight. I know I did the video this past week, but I wanted to just come on y'all and tell you personally, I'm still buying. I got a house under contract just the other day. Dan was still buying, being a little more selective. Like you
No, a
can't
lot more
buy
selective.
a
A lot.
lot more selective. People, I'm telling you, in my area, they were buying in the hood. They were getting the numbers, but I know how quick. I'm like, man, you are really taking a lot of. I know the market can change. It's like a wave, just it can change so quick. And I feel like, Dan, a lot of people gonna be leaving the real estate business over the next year, brother.
Chris, it's like this, man. You know what I find every time there's a downturn? All the wannabes are out of the market. The real investors, the real estate agents, the real title agents, the everybody that's needed in this business is going to become just a handful, and that's good because we're like the phoenix, that handful. If you take the time out to prepare, you could be part of that phoenix.
That's right. All right, so listen, y'all, the Black Friday specials will be coming out this Friday. I got my man coming on. Don't miss it. We got all type of goodies for you. I've negotiated stuff with all my trainers. Discounts, special hats, stacks, all that stuff. Dan, thank you so much for coming on, brother. We're getting to bed. I'll talk to you soon.
Good night, man. Thank you for inviting me. Take care.
Yep, talk to y'all soon. Peace. Round up. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. I will talk to y'all soon. Much love to you and your families. Peace.